Hello and welcome to another new video from BradleySiderograph.com. In this video, we're going to go over the rate of change. This is something Donald Bradley mentioned in his book, Stock Market Prediction. He talked about how instead of simply looking at the Bradley Siderograph, we could also look at the rate of change in the Bradley Siderograph to get some additional insights about the market. So before we go further, just so we're all clear, this video is for educational purposes only, and it doesn't contain any financial, legal, or other advice. So please consult your own professional advisors with respect to your investment decisions. Okay, so right here we see a graph of the S&P 500. That's the blue line that you see here. And we also see a graph of the Advanced Astro Indicator for the S&P 500, which is this red line right here. And if you look, you can see that for the year 2016 so far, we have a pretty significant low around the middle of February, and we also had a recent high a few days ago. So what do these two things have in common? So the low point in February and the high point in about a week ago, what do they have in common? So if you look at the rate of change in the Advanced Astro Indicator, you can see that for the most recent high, which took place about a week ago, you can see that there was a spike up in the rate of change. And over here, when you had a low in the S&P 500, we also had a big spike up in the rate of change. So what is the rate of change? To be very simplistic and simple, the rate of change has to do with how fast is the indicator going up or going down. So if you look over the past week or so, you can see right here this red line, the Advanced Astro Indicator. You can see how it goes up pretty rapidly. And because it's going up so rapidly, that's why you see a high value for the rate of change. Also right here, when you are down towards the low in the Advanced Astro Indicator, you can see that it doesn't just slowly go down and slowly go up. As it's going down at a slow pace at this point, and then all of a sudden it goes down rapidly, and then it goes up rapidly. So because of that rapid change down and rapid change up, you had a high rate of change. So this first spike up, this has to do with a negative rate of change, and this spike up here has to do with a positive rate of change, because here it's going down, here it's going up, but this indicator, the rate of change, is not so much focused on is the indicator going down or is the indicator going up. It's instead focused on how rapidly is the indicator going up or down. So for example, here you can see the indicator is relatively slowly going down, and you can see the rate of change is a relatively low value. Whereas, as we talked about before, right here there's a relatively fast rate of increase, so you have a spike up. Okay, so we saw how there was a spike in the rate of change for the low for the S&P 500 for the year, and for the high as of about a week ago. But what about this time period over here? If we go back to November of 2015, we had a high. So if you look at the Bradley Siderograph, so this right here, this green line, this is the Bradley Siderograph. You can see that there's a relatively slow pace of decline right here, and then all of a sudden it goes down relatively rapidly right here. So there's a spike up in the rate of change indicator for the Bradley Siderograph. And you can see that this spike up in the rate of change took place at approximately the middle of this significant top right here in the S&P 500. So that's an example of what the rate of change looks like when it's graphed against the S&P 500. So let's go back to the actual source of this, the book Stock Market Prediction by Donald Bradley. So here's a quote from this book that talks about this. It says that the Bradley Siderograph can be thought of as a principal symptom in diagnosing current market circumstances and as a sounding board for prognoses concerning further developments. Already we are convinced that rates of change are of critical importance in such predictive interpretation, comparable to power to the actual reversal points in the Bradley Siderograph. A near future innovation will be to graph the line of rate of change on ratio paper over a lengthy period in order to ascertain the merit of this conviction. So back in the time of Donald Bradley, he was using a ratio paper, which was probably a pen and paper at the time, whereas thankfully we have access to computers. But overall, what Donald Bradley was saying was that we could look at the rate of change in the Bradley Siderograph as compared to simply looking at the level of the Siderograph itself. So here's the formula for the rate of change, and it's very simple. It simply takes the security price for a particular day. it subtracts the security price from the previous day and divides it by the previous day's price. So if today's price is 102 and yesterday's price is 101, you would do 102 minus 101 divided by 101. So let's take a look at another security. So one of the more actively traded securities today is Apple. So we can see this graph right here, this red line. This is the advanced astro indicator for Apple for 2016. And in blue here, you can see a graph of Apple's stock price. And let's take a look at the rate of change. So this black line right here, this is the rate of change for Apple. And you can see that the high for Apple corresponded to the top in the advanced astro indicator, as well as a low in the rate of change. It makes sense that the rate of change would be low because here you can see that the indicator is not changing very much. And then over here you can see that there is a relatively large amount of change, and that's the same time that we had a low in Apple. So right here there must have been a relatively large amount of decrease compared to the time prior and after. So that rate of change corresponded to the low in Apple. And over here, this looks like it's around the beginning of July. That's when you also have a significant amount of spike up in the rate of change. And then over here, if you come to, this looks like late October 2016, that's when you have another spike up in the rate of change. So this is a overview of the rate of change, which the Advanced Astro Dashboard has for all of the indicators, including the Bradley Siderograph, the Advanced Astro Indicator, and all the others, such as the middle terms and long terms. So I hope you found this video to be useful, and if you'd like to learn more, feel free to click on the link in the video description, and you can learn more. Thanks.